Hey there, this is Nusrat. Today I'm going to talk to you about something different, not programming or fitness. I would like to talk to you about our South Asian culture, what it feels like to grow up in South Asia. That includes India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, probably Nepal, Sri Lanka. I don't know, forgive me. I think the culture is more or less the same over here. However, I could be wrong. Anyways, so if you're from any of these countries, even if you're abroad, but you are originally from one of these places, I think you would know what I mean. Other than that, I think that anybody could relate to it to some extent, regardless of which culture or which country they're from, because there are certain ties and we're all connected. So, you might find something relatable. However, I'm going to give you a bit briefing about why I feel like it's a bit of a difficult phase growing up in South Asia compared to other places, and why I feel that it could be more or less the same everywhere else, and how we can actually get over that process. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So, growing up in South Asia, growing up in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan is pretty interesting. Okay, I mean, there are certain aspects. First of all, don't get me wrong, our culture is actually one of the best in the world. I mean, of course, all the cultures are awesome because we are born here and we're brought up here, so we have a very emotional connection to this culture, which I'm sure everybody can relate to regardless of where they come from. However, there are certain anomalies in our culture, especially for kids who are growing up, and these are the things that I would like to talk about. So, one of the things about our culture is the fact that our bonding is really, really strong. It is so strong that people really don't grow up here. I mean, we're like grown-up kids, and that's kind of sweet. I mean, even if you're like 32 or 40, you'll still get scolded by your mom or dad if you're not eating properly, and that's kind of sweet, right? Did you eat properly? Even if you have like kids. Oh no, I think once you have kids, you actually evolve. Until then, you're still a kid. I mean, it doesn't matter where we're from, we're always our mother's child and our daddy's daughter and son, regardless of whichever place we come from, and we love them and we cherish them, of course. But I'm talking about growing up. I'm talking about making decisions as an individual. So we know that we grow up related to our surroundings, what we see, what we learn, the decisions that we take. And I think in these sort of aspects, people in South Asia really have a hard time. I mean, most of our decisions are taken for a long time by everybody around us. That includes our parents, our relatives, society, what we are going to wear, how we're going to look, what we're going to eat, probably what we're going to wear and how we're going to behave among one another. So something interesting about people over here are, I guess we are bonded very deeply, we in other countries you would see that kids are usually put in a separate room from a very early age, and I think that kind of develops a feeling of independence. I mean, when you're in a room alone from the age of 2 or 1, you are used to having your own personality develop. And this is not me saying it. Psychologists actually affirm to it that children who are put separate in an early age usually develop a sense of independence, privacy, and they're really good at decision making. And something what happens in countries of South Asia is that in many cases we have joint families. There is always somebody. So I mean, it's a good thing, of course. Both are good. I mean, in other countries people develop a sense of independence, a sense of boundaries at an early age. In our country, we always have someone, it doesn't matter. someone scolded you in school, you just go up to your aunts, your mother, your father, your grandparents. You always tell them whatever you're going through. There is almost no sense of separation, and in a way that's kind of sweet, right? We are always having someone to protect us. We always have someone to go to whenever we fall in a trouble. Of course, the same goes for kids abroad. They always have their parents, but I feel like this tendency of coexisting mostly in the same room with your siblings, in the same atmosphere, surrounded by lots of people, kind of makes us dependent on others. Um, which is why later on in life, most of us have a hard time in decision making. I'm coming back to that later, but I really need to say, especially for women, who are in our culture, they need to, it's almost a rule, it's almost a law that any girl who gets married will have to go to live with their in-laws. So, all throughout their lives, they have seen their parents, their grandparents, their siblings, their aunts, and suddenly nobody's there. It's just a new family. So it takes, for some women, it may take some time to adjust to this new surrounding, because they cannot, they probably can over phone, maybe they don't, they cannot completely run to uh, their relative's house to seek help, and something that they were used to for a really long time during their childhood. So this is something I feel that it's good for kids to really be surrounded by a lot of bonding, but bonding and boundaries should both be there. And I feel like as a kid growing up in South Asia, sometimes it's not there. I mean, things have changed over the last few years, and there are more kids alone in apartments, and they really miss their family ties and stuff. But more or less, this is one of the things I wanted to highlight. The next thing is finances. I mean, most kids who grow up, we really don't have, most of us in these countries really don't know how to manage our finances from a very early age. I mean, it's not like, well, we probably get something like a pocket money or salami during Eid. We spend it up, but there isn't really um, any focused attention on it, any grooming done on how to manage your finance. So some of these could really cultivate really poor money habits as we grow up, because we never were really taught that way, that we learn it throughout the process. So this is one of the other things. Another thing I feel like it's probably very unique about South Asia is the system of meeting other people. It's like we're in a little shell, and we're confined in it within our families, within all their love and protection, and very rarely do we meet other people. We probably go to college. In most cases, girls have to be accompanied by their brothers or their mothers or someone to college. Not always, not now. I mean, things have changed, but in most cases, we have to be back within a certain time. We're always protected. We hardly know anybody outside our circle. And then comes arranged marriage. Suddenly you have to live your life with this complete stranger. I find it really weird. I mean, all your life you're supposed to not even talk to a stranger, and within an arranged marriage, you're supposed to marry that guy you don't know, and then live with him and his family for the rest of your life. So that's it's kind of like weird, right, for a child growing up in South Asia. Of course, things have changed, and there are more of a tendency towards choosing your companion right now. I think it's also in many countries in South Asia, not just South Asia, many countries in Asia. And of course, arranged marriage is done when parents, the two families, talk to each other, and when the girl and the boy always talks. But still, I mean, it's kind of weird, right? All throughout your life, you don't know anybody. You are taught that do not talk to strangers. and suddenly you have this shift. Anyways, that's one thing I wanted to highlight. Another thing I wanted to highlight is that there is no privacy, you know. There is like this huge pressure in our culture. Everybody has something to say about you, whether you're a man or a woman. How you talk, how you behave, what you do, everybody has something to say about you. If you're not getting married, there would be a lot of pressure from your family, from your neighbors, from everybody. Why aren't you getting married? If you're married and if you're not having kids yet, why aren't you having any kids yet? If you're having kids yet and you know those kids aren't doing something they want, like there's so much pressure from other people around you about how you should live your life, and sometimes for some people these pressures are really hard. One of the most biggest pressure women face is regarding their complexion. So if someone who is fair is usually, you know, seen as a very suitable candidate as a bride, and someone with dark complexion always, not always, now things are changing to the positive, but mostly they have to hear at least somewhat of a complaint. Why are you so and so? That I feel is so unfair. I mean, dark is beautiful. What's wrong with you people? But that's how society works over here. And thankfully, things have changed a lot. Um However, it's not just complexion, it's also weight. There's a lot of body shaming done, and it's done in such a manner like it's normal. Why are you so fat? Why do you look so fat since the last time I saw you? And women, not also men, not just women, women have to go through these sort of things all the time. And you know, as people, as children growing up and under such a pressure, I feel like this is so wrong because in other countries body shaming is considered to be wrong. In our country it's like a gossip thing, you know, people do that, and that's just not right, right? At the same time, men are also guys who are growing up also have a hard time, because if the guy is not doing something, if the guy is not employed or isn't doing a job that is worthy, you know, as in it has a lot of salary, then that guy also has to face a lot of pressure that why aren't you doing so and so job, why aren't you earning enough, who will marry you? And this sort of social bonding turns into this kind of a slow torture for children over here, that I feel like growing up can be really difficult. To grow up as an individual with your own philosophies, doing your own thing, you know, setting up your own business against what people say that, you know, why aren't you doing your what everybody else is doing. I guess everywhere around the world going against the tide does have some friction, but I feel like in these ways growing up in our countries is a little bit difficult. However, there are lots of really good points in our country. I feel in our country and in all the South Asian countries that I feel should also be appreciated. Our bonding is so beautiful. I mean, um, it's true that women, most women, almost every woman have to leave their parents' house after they get married, and in some cases men too, because like I said, nuclear families are becoming more prominent nowadays. But you know, it's always a custom right now that they cry. They're basically in tears, you know, when they leave their family. It's a very emotional moment, and I feel like that's one of the places, you know, in other places, suppose you're going abroad to study or to work, it's not really common to see such tears that brides have the day they leave their parents' house. It's definitely very emotional and very sad, but it also highlights how beautiful the connection is, how much they love their fathers and their mothers and their siblings, and how much it means to them. It means to all of us. Also, this we have a lot of cute moments, I think, in our everyday lives. It doesn't matter whether you're in a nuclear family or in a joint family. We are suppose for example, in our house, if I'm working for a long time, or if I'm busy with something, and if I'm outside, I would get at least 2-3 calls throughout the day. What are you doing? Have you eaten? Are you okay? And this is, like I said in the beginning, there is a lot of warmth and there is a lot of care. And in one way, this can be a little bit bad because we get used to it, and that is where we need to, as children growing up in South Asia, that is where we really need to work. We need to work on being independent, on setting our boundaries, and in developing our own style. I mean, probably most of the people who are seeing this are aware and have already managed this phase. I'm talking about the people who might relate to it, and that's probably most of us, right? um, we need to balance our passion with the expectation of people around us. Of course, I mean, do what you want. You don't want to be, say your parents want you to be a doctor, an engineer, and there is this typical thinking that's still in our country and in many cases, I guess, in many places, because parents want what's best for their children, and a profession such as becoming a doctor or an engineer usually pays off and usually is a more secure profession. Also, parents in these countries really work a lot to buy assets. It could be property or flats, and they always give away these assets to their kids because they're so connected to them emotionally. I don't feel really much interested in assets. I mean, it's kind of materialistic, but yeah, I mean, I find it so fascinating that these parents who buy all these assets for their children in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and so on, and also in other places, it's almost a norm. They want to leave behind something for their kids. It's very touching, right? And I feel like as kids growing up in these countries, South Asia, it is our responsibility to not only, to fulfill kind of this expectation, to not abandon or, to not disappoint them, because they're doing so much and they're so much more connected. If they were not connected, just do your own thing, live your own life, do whatever you want. But since they are connected and since there's so much into you, since they're so much bonded to you, you need to respect that. Perhaps you probably do. You still need to have some feeling that, okay, suppose you want to be a photographer, or you want to do something very different than what your parents want you to be. Go with your passion, but also respect their decision. I'm not sure how that happens. This is where we all face a bit of a conflict. Kids who want to be a musician or photographer and their parents don't agree at times. Not always, of course. At times it's a lot of pressure, but try to convince them that dad or mom, this is what I want to do, and try to really outshine in that field so that they know that at the end of the day they're really concerned about you and your future, and that is why they probably put objections, unlike you would get in other countries. But just tell them that mom, dad, I love you, this is how I am, this is what I want to do, and I'm sure that they appreciate you as much as well. So these are some of the things that I find a bit interesting in our culture, and we all are united in it. Of course, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that these are some of the things that I have gone through, and I've seen that most of the people around me, because I'm in lots of groups on Facebook, I've seen that almost everybody goes through this phase where they really have a hard time in decision making growing up in these countries, and whether they're female or male. And I feel like we need to talk about it. You just need to be in your own frame, and you just need to figure out that sweet spot between helping yourself and helping your family. So that's it for today. Let me know what you think, and if you like this content, if you want to see more of such things, let me know. And as always, take care and have a great day.